Hi, folks. Harold Rhee with the Pawprint Animal Rescue Podcast. Before we get to the amazing Allie McAdam, Instagram strategist, just wanted to let you know that after Allie's episode, we're going to have 3 episodes in a row with Rhee Bloom, our favorite positive reinforcement animal trainer. Don't miss the latest and greatest in our Ask Rhee series. Thanks, and on to the show.
This is Pawprint, an animal rescue community, episode 116. I'm Nancy Rhee.
And I'm Harold Rhee.
Today's guest is the amazing Allie McAdam, Instagram strategist and podcaster.
They're going to want to go out of their way to say, hey, I know this dog. This dog has a story. They've come from a really hard place or maybe a good place, and I want to share that with your audience or share that with other people to help get him adopted.
In today's episode, we ask, what would Allie McAdam do? Allie gives some great Instagram tips for your animal rescue organization. Go to our show notes, and we'll tell you exactly when she talks about some of her best answers, including favorite hashtags for animal rescue, as well as how to get her free video training on Instagram. To find our show notes, go to thisispawprint.com/116. That's the number 116.
Most people, when they're first getting started with Instagram, because they know it's big, they see other people doing so well on it that they want in on the fun as well. They see other people doing well with it, but they're like, oh, but my brand or my business or my industry, it's not very photogenic. You know, I don't have products that I can share or good pictures of services or whatever it is. It's not image-based. Whereas your audience or your animal rescue people, they are, because they've got all these cute pictures of puppies and kittens and dogs and cats and beautiful animals that can really, really make a difference as far as, you know, visually appealing content goes. So then they go, okay, well, all right, I have that. How do I share it? Right? How do I actually put it out there and in a really good way that not only just shares random pictures of random animals, but tells a story and creates a culture and builds a brand, right? So that's really the question that comes down to where you need to get started with that. Okay. And luckily, it's actually a lot easier than people think, which is this. You need to create a lifestyle around your brand and what you're building. Because people see animals. They see so many pictures. They see those cute dogs, those cute cats, all those gorgeous pictures that you take, but they're like, all right, great. I see those all over the place. Even people who aren't rescue branded accounts, they're posting pictures of their animals, right? Their pets and their dogs and their cats. So what you have to do is create a culture around it, create a lifestyle around it. So how you can do that is create success stories. So here's how we can direct this. What is the main goal of your audience members' accounts?
I would say a lot of people use Facebook. And so what they'll do is that they'll say, hey, this dog or this cat was found maybe abandoned, or maybe it's at a shelter, but unfortunately it's on a euthanasia list, right? Those are the super urgent ones. But then on the other hand, you also have the really great feel-good stories. So yeah, I think it's a mix of both kind of really sad situations, but also some really positive stories as well.
And I would want to share both sides of that. And the beautiful thing, the reason why I love Instagram so much is because it creates a lot of emotion. And that's what you want to do. And from what you're telling me, this is already created naturally through the business of, you know, doing animal rescue, right? There's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs, and there's a lot of a roller coaster ride of emotions. And you can create that visually with beautiful images that you're taking of your animals that you have. So my first suggestion is to create a different type of post content strategy for your Instagram. Now, I know content strategy sounds a little loaded and you're like, I don't have time for that. Like, where do you think you're going with that? What I mean by content strategy is just figure out the different types of posts that you're going to be posting and how often you're going to be posting them. Now, I know the next question that always comes up is, all right, well, which posts do I post? Do I just post a ton of animal photos and just hope that they get seen? Well, what you can do is you can do a lot of different types. So for one, you could create success story posts. Now, in these ones, you can show success stories of animals that were adopted. Now, what this will do is it'll create, and I'm sure a lot of your audience members are already doing this, but maybe they're not doing it enough. So that's usually what happens. And I did a lot of research on animal rescue Instagram accounts before I got on here, the ones that were doing really well, the ones that maybe could get more exposure. And that was the number one type of post that I felt like I resonated with. That was the number one type of post that I was like, oh my gosh, that success story or that testimonial of that family that got connected with that specific dog or cat cat or animal was so beautiful and they saved him and it was just so great. That made me go, okay, now I want to go rescue another animal. You know what I mean? Like it made me want to move. And that's what you want to do. You want to create an emotion that attaches to your audience member, to the people who are looking at your content, and make them want to take action, make them want to move forward with your brand and whatever goal that you have. And if that's adoption, move them to want to adopt, and not a spammy sort of a way, but in a way that creates that emotion and allows them to attach and resonate with your brand and move that action forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. As I mentioned to you before, Facebook tends to be number one, but Instagram it would probably be second place as far as the social media platform of choice. How should we present something, let's say on Facebook, differently on Instagram?
Such a good question, because on Facebook, you can post images, right? So you're like, well, do I just repost it to Instagram, and vice versa? If I post anything to Instagram, do I just repost it to my Facebook page? Here's the difference with the content. Each platform has its own, let's call it a signature. Every platform has its own signature. So does Twitter, so does Pinterest, so does every other social media platform out there. The difference between Facebook and Instagram is they both can be visual, but the attention rate is different. So what I would recommend is on Facebook, you can do a little more text, obviously, because it's a little more forefront than the images, and use the same images. But what I would do is obviously on Instagram, you can use the same images you use for Facebook, but I would recommend doing them square. You can still do them, long form in a rectangle or whatever type of post image size you want. But I would recommend still doing it square. So if you just want to cut or, change up the image that you post on Facebook, that's fine. And then you can copy and paste the content, the actual text that you put on a Facebook post into Instagram, but I would word it a little differently, because obviously you can't just add a link in there because they're not clickable on the captions on Instagram. So what you would do is you would say, click the link in my bio to go check out our latest adoption, or click the link in my bio to go get this freebie that I have for you, to have them sign up for your email list if you have that. Or sign up, go to our website to check out our latest listing, or whatever it is. So you can't add a link. So there's the difference with that type of content. Otherwise, definitely don't go out of your way to create totally different content for each platform, because that takes up a lot of time. And when we start to do that, we create different content for every single platform. We end up just sitting on social media all day long. Am I right? Like, it takes forever to be everywhere. So just take the content you're already creating for Facebook, if that's what you're already doing, and just tweak it a little bit to add it to Instagram.
Awesome. We're talking to Allie McAdam. She's an Instagram strategist as well as a fellow podcaster. You can find her at alliemcadam.com, and you can also find her podcast called Passion in Business. When I listen to your awesome podcast, Passion in Business, I've already learned so much about Instagram. One of the big things that you're a huge proponent of, hashtags, right? Could you maybe explain to folks, because Facebook, you don't really use them as much, same with Twitter, but Instagram, I think hashtags really are a key strategy.
Absolutely. They're definitely forefront of the platform, because hashtags are the number one way for exposure when it comes to Instagram. And that's huge. I don't think a lot of people get just how much exposure you can get. You could not do any engagement or any follower growth strategies and just use hashtags, and your account will grow if you're posting consistently. So that says a lot. It'll grow your audience and it'll attract more people to you. Now, as far as hashtags go, like I said, it's the number one way of exposure, so you should be using them. And I know that it's kind of painful, because then you're like, okay, what ones should I be using? Well, a lot of people might tell you, well, just use the most popular ones. Just use ones that get a lot of traffic on the news feeds. Basically, what hashtags are is when you add a hashtag to your post, it will automatically get added to the hashtag feed, which people are regularly looking at every single day, every single hour, every single minute, which is gaining you, like I said, exposure to that post. The problem with using really high populated hashtags is that they're not going to be seen very quickly, because that post, as soon as it's added, will get straight down that feed on the hashtag feed, because other people are posting it to it so frequently as well. So what I would do, and I actually did a little bit of research prior to this as far as animal rescue goes, and I researched some great hashtags that you could be using, that your audience members could be using to help you get started on which ones to be using, so you can go use them already if you feel like they resonate. But really what it comes down to is use targeted hashtags that really go with your content and your brand and that really resonate with your audience members, because those are the ones that they're going to be looking at. So a couple of hashtags that I found for your audience, if you're okay with me listing those off too, because I wanted to be able to give you something to get started with.
Absolutely. Would love it.
Perfect. So a couple of hashtags that you could be using that are not super high populated, but are very targeted to your specific niche, depending on where you live in the world, apparently. Depending on what business you're doing, is hashtag don't shop adopt. I thought that one was super cute. And that one is really, really good and targeted to your, like I said, niche or industry. Hashtag rescue pets of Instagram.
Oh.
Hashtag rescues of Instagram. Hashtag foster dog. That one was cute. Hashtag rescued is my favorite breed. This one is kind of popular, but not so much that it's overly populated. And I thought that was super cute. And the content was all animal rescued, and it was super, super cute because it was really great content. This would be a really good hashtag for you to go to and look at what other people are posting, and even maybe repost some of those yourself. So another type of content you could be posting is called UGC content. And what that is user generated content. So you're pulling other people's content. It's just like reposting or sharing a post on Facebook. And the reason why that's so great is because you're not spending so much time creating the content yourself, and you're getting more exposure because sharing other people's content. So, and then the final hashtag that I have listed is hashtag be kind to animals. That one's pretty generic, but I thought I would throw that in there just in case, someone just wanted to be able to get that out there.
Wow. Thanks for doing that extra research. That's super, super helpful. So, and another thing I learned through your show is that the temptation, of course, is to put the hashtags right below the text, right after you type all your, whatever you're going to put in there.
Right.
But it sounds like a best practice is actually to just post the text, then in the comments, copy and paste your hashtags. Could you maybe explain a little bit more about why you use that strategy?
Sure. So there's a couple of reasons to this. Now, one thing that I recommend to people is I'm constantly getting asked, okay, I figured out what hashtags to use. Now, how many should I be using? The max number of hashtags you can be using on Instagram is 30. Now, I always recommend to people to use all 30 of them because that gives you maximum exposure. The problem with this is if you put this on your caption directly, it looks almost kind of spammy, right? Because there's all these random hashtags. It looks very cluttered. It's not very clean. And it's not very appealing to the eye. So I will always recommend to my clients, to my audience members, everyone that I work with, I tell them, do your caption right below the post. That's the very first comment that's left for a post. Describe the post, ask questions, give feedback, whatever it is that you're going to write about that post, and then publish the post. Next, you're going to go and you're going to leave the very first comment right off the bat as soon as it's published. And that's where you're going to publish all of your hashtags. Now, the reason for this is because as people start to comment on your post, what's great is there's a fold that happens. And what a fold is it makes it so that, that button that you'll see, it'll say read more comments for this post or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it folds into that. So you don't even see the hashtags anymore, but you're still getting the benefits of all the exposure from each of those. So it kind of hides them a little bit, and also it doesn't look all spammy or cluttered on your caption.
Wow. Really, really good stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.
Anything else about hashtags that we should be aware about? Or have you noticed, any highlights of best practices that you've seen when it comes to hashtags?
Sure. So one of the things I already mentioned is don't use overly populated ones. There's so many people that say, oh, just go use follow for follow or like for like because those are super popular. Those ones drive me crazy. I actually really don't like those because one, they're super populated, and two, those are not attracting your ideal target audience. The beautiful thing about hashtags, and here's another tip for those of you that are working, and I kind of already mentioned this, but for those of you who are working this into your strategy, make sure they're targeted. What I would do is I would go look at your competitors, or maybe not your competitors, but other people who are in your industry doing the same thing you're doing or a similar field. Go look and see what hashtags they're using. Better yet, go to your audience members who are already following you or who are following your competitors and go see what hashtags they're using. Because if they're using it, more than likely they're going and looking at those feeds and looking at what other people are posting on those feeds. So if you start using them for your posts, you're going to attract them to you. And those are the people you want attracted to you, right? Because you don't want random bots or fake accounts or fake people or people who aren't interested in what you have to do attracted to your account, because they're not going to take action. They're not going to move forward. They're not going to want to build a relationship with you. And that's what you want. I'm super big on being authentic and building relationships with people that want to be in your tribe, that want to be in your audience, that want to help build up your community and build up your brand.
Of course, technology, time. I mean, the biggest limitation on anybody is time. As you said, you don't want to spend all day on social media.
Right. Sometimes it ends up happening anyway.
Exactly. Well, maybe we have a listener who's like, listen, I don't know anything about technology. I hardly can use my computer. But on the other hand, a lot of animal rescue organizations have a small army of volunteers. Anything that someone should be looking for in a volunteer to potentially say, hey, I'd love to see if you could help me out with our social media. Is there a certain age group that is really good with Instagram, or is there a certain skill set that you might look for in an Instagram volunteer?
Such a good question. That's actually a really, really good question. I'm glad that you brought that up. So really good quality to look for. If you have a volunteer and you're like, okay, should this person, maybe I can approach them and ask them to maybe help me with my Instagram or take this over for me or help me post a little bit. Probably the number one quality, and this might actually be surprising, but the quality I would look for in somebody is just if they're connected with your animals. Because, and here's why, because if they're already connected with them, if they're really good at volunteering and really good at spending time, not only spending time with the animals, but also that they're there for them. They really care about them. They enjoy what they do. They're going to want to go out of their way to share those stories. They're going to want to go out of their way to say, hey, I know this dog. This dog has a story. They've come from a really hard place or maybe a good place, and I want to share that with your audience or share that with other people to help get him adopted. Or I really want to be able to share these stories and put this content out there for you. So really the number one quality I was looking for is if they're really connected with the animals, if they really, really seem to care, not just a volunteer, just to get some maybe service hours set out. Maybe they actually come because they love being there. They fall in love with the animals and they love to help the animals with their background stories and to grow and to build off of that. So look for that quality. And then to approach them, I would just say, hey, could you just naturally, if they're within the age range of, if they're a teenager or their 20s or even low 30s, these generally to be the best age range. Now, obviously, it's not stuck to that, but that generally seems to be the best age range, especially teenagers. They're really good at Instagram. So, and low 20s. So, which is funny because that's where I'm at. So
there you go.
If you find someone who, if they're in that age range, that would be really, really ideal to approach them and say, hey, I love that you're attached to all of these animals because you start taking pictures for me. Obviously they're probably pretty good at it. They probably take a couple of selfies here and there, and they've got that down so they can start taking selfies with the dogs or of the dogs with other people, and just ask them to maybe post for you or even send you the pictures that they're taking, and then you can post it yourself.
Quality versus quantity. Is it more important to have these amazing photos, perfectly in focus and professionally produced and all that? Or is it more important to just have a regular update where you're just regularly posting, whether it's daily, weekly?
So the absolute best way that you can utilize Instagram is obviously it's a visual platform. So if you could have a professional photographer come in and take absolutely gorgeous photos and then edit them to perfection and then add those, of course, that's going to be perfect. That's going to be ideal because it is a visual platform. However, that scares people. And they're like, I don't got time for that. And two, I don't have the capacity. I can't hire someone. I don't know how to do that. I don't have that skill. And then they end up just not posting at all or taking advantage of Instagram at all. all. So my recommendation is, yeah, if you can do that, go for it. That's amazing. I've worked with jewelers, and of course they had professional people already on hand taking photography for them for their website. We just moved that into their Instagram content. If you can do it, go for it. However, don't let that stop you. If you want to just take pictures with your phone, the majority of my pictures are taken with my phone, and I just edit it with a quick app that's on my phone, and then I post it that way. So if you want to just take a quick picture, or if you want to do it with your phone and just do updates that way, I would say go for it. Don't let it stop you that this has to be super visual. It's also a skill that's pretty easy to learn. So as you start to watch your audience members or see what they're posting, or you'll start to notice some posts get more likes and comments than others. Start to post those types of content and start to realize, okay, well, maybe this one was a little nicer. It was taken a little bit more in a good environment. It looks really nice. It's got a good background. I'll start to post more of those because it seems to be liked by my audience. Pay attention to what your audience likes and go from there. That would be also a really big tip that I would give. And that's almost more important than the quality of the photos. And by quality, I don't mean good content that resonates with your audience, because that's so important. I don't mean super high focused, edited from a professional. That's important, but not as important as making sure it resonates with your audience and makes them want to move forward with, connecting more with you or building a relationship with you and your brand.
When people post, and you sort of mentioned it, are there any apps that you recommend as far as either resizing the photo or cleaning it up, maybe the brightness a little bit? It can be a little bit intimidating because Instagram has all those filters, right? And sometimes it's like you see like 40 filters that Instagram has. It's like, which one do I choose?
So number one, I always tell people, if you want to edit, just use the Instagram features. Now it is a little bit of a learning curve just because you have to understand how many capabilities it has. Like you said, there's a lot of them, like all the filters, all the different options, but you can edit it directly on Instagram, which is really great because then you don't have to download a third-party app. You don't have to worry about doing it outside of Instagram. You can just load it, edit it, tweak it a little bit, and then hurry and post it. Now, the other thing I would like to say, that if you would like to do it off of Instagram, there's a couple of other tools that I like to use to edit. I do use my laptop sometimes, depending on what type of content I'm creating. But the number one app that I like to use as far as my phone goes is called Snapseed, and it is free, and you can use it to quickly edit and to use for your posts. Now, what I would say as far as editing your content, and let's say you are using Instagram and you've got all these filters to choose, I would say pick one. And don't just pick one for that specific post. Pick one for all of your posts, because you want your content to be consistent. You want it to look aesthetically pleasing, and you want it to have a theme overall for all of your posts. So pick one that you like, that looks good, that represents your brand well, that your audience seems to really like and engage with. Pick one filter, one set of options to edit your posts from, and then just go from there and use that same one over and over again. And that way, like I said, your posts look very, very consistent.
Speaking of different features, one feature that I used to use, but that I don't use as much, is that the cool thing about Instagram is that you can set it up so that anything you post on Instagram will automatically post on Facebook. I used to use that a lot, and then I kind of stopped. I guess I just thought I'd like to have the Instagram posts and the Facebook posts be somewhat different from each other.
Right.
Was wondering your opinion. What would you do?
So it depends on where you're coming from, but I'll give you a couple of different answers to suit the type of audience member, the person that's listening to this, because I know everyone's situation is different. If you are someone who doesn't have time for Instagram, but you want to be using it, I would recommend to just share it like that, because that way, as you post to there, it's going to your Facebook, which is likely your number one place to be. That's where you spend a lot of your time. So that's where you're going to be engaging the most. Allow that to happen. It's okay to automatically have it post to Facebook. I totally think that's fine if it's going to save you time and if it's going to also allow you to still utilize Instagram. So yes, definitely use it in that sense. However, if you do have a little more time, I would actually recommend taking the time to post it separately. Now, the reason for this is because I want you to be able to create content and tweak it specifically for Instagram, and create content and tweak it specifically for Facebook. What that means is making sure it's ideal for the specific platform, as we spoke about earlier on. They are a little bit different. You can still use the same content, but you've got to tweak it and change it up a little bit according to which platform you're using. But I would recommend taking the time to separately post them. And I know that can become a hassle, but there are scheduling tools that you can use to make it so that you can schedule this content out and they can automatically publish for you for Facebook and for Instagram.
Yeah, any scheduling tools you recommend? I think the only one I've ever used personally was Buffer.
Yes, so there's Buffer, there's Hootsuite. I'm a really big blogger and podcaster, so I use a really buff one that's called CoSchedule. I'm not sure if anyone in your audience is going to be at that level, and that's totally fine. But yes, Buffer and Hootsuite are really, really great tools. There's also Sprout Social. Buffer, I believe they do have that free option, and so does Hootsuite, so those are pretty great starter schedulers to be using.
Okay, all right. Well, tell us a little bit about your own training. I mean, you offer you're an Instagram strategist. You offer a ton of just valuable training through your podcast, Passion in Business. What other services do you offer?
Thank you. So, yes, I love to give free content because when I first started out, I had so many questions and I felt like I was reading all these blog posts, watching all these YouTube videos, listening to all this, consuming all this content, and I wasn't getting the answers. They were all kind of vague or they were specific to that person and they wouldn't really work for me. So I love giving free content, which I do through my podcast, and I actually love doing on my site as well. What I do is, because I was able to do this for myself, I started to get people asking me, okay, can you do this for me? So that was pretty cool. So I was able to shift into that. And I actually do offer services where I manage other people's accounts and I help them grow, help them build their business, help them get more sales. I guess in this case, more adoptions, because those amazing puppies and kittens need homes, right?
That's right.
So yeah, I do offer services where I actually manage accounts myself, and I am in the process within the next 2 months, I am launching a membership site, which is so exciting and so much work, but that's my current project. And I'm launching that membership site all around Instagram, how to build on Instagram, how to get more sales, and how to really build up a brand and a culture and a lifestyle around what you're trying to do for your business and for your brand. So that's my current project. And like I mentioned, I do offer those services to manage accounts as well.
What would you recommend as the next step? What would really help increase their Instagram knowledge?
So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I just absolutely need more. I love you, Allie, because that totally happens all the time. Notice the sarcasm in my voice. What I have is a free training. This is a video series that took a lot of work and I put a lot of thought into. And it's really cool because it actually talks about a lot of the things we talked about, but it takes it further. So for instance, the very first video is all about hashtagging. And not only do I tell you about hashtagging, but I actually show you exactly how to find, pick and choose and use those hashtags that you need to be using for your specific business and your specific brand to help gain the most exposure and to help attract your target audience to you. And that's just video number one. I also talk about how to bio build, how to set up your bio to attract your target audience and move them forward to click that link in your bio. And then I also talk about how to engage with your current audience and how to grow your audience. So that free training is there. Like I said, totally free. You can get instant access to the first video, and it's long. It's something that I've had people come to me and be like, you need to be charging for this. I've had friends that are like, this is silly. Why aren't you need to like put this up for a couple bucks at least? And I wanted to give it away for free. And so I want to give that to your audience as well and give you that free access.
I've already mentioned your website a couple times, but feel free to mention it again. What are the best ways to find you?
Perfect. So my website is alliemcadam.com. Otherwise, you can listen to my podcast, Passion in Business. I do create other content around Instagram, though, so if you want to listen to me there. And otherwise, finding me on my site or on Instagram, my handle is Allie McAdam, which is super hard to remember. I know, because it's so inconsistent with everything else that I've given you. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, as someone's listening to this, right, they're feeling like really good content. But as always, technology can be a little bit overwhelming. If someone was staring at their Instagram page, what would be maybe one or two things that you think they should truly focus on?
So if you wanted the very first step, the very first thing you could do if you said, I only have time to implement one thing from this show, I would want you to take away this. I would want you to just start engaging with your current audience. While posting content and putting more content out there and growing your audience is really, really important, I think engaging with the current people who are already in love with you is even more important, because that builds community and that builds that know, like, and trust and those relationships that are really going to be the foundation of your business or your brand, and it's going to move that needle forward the most.
Now, when you mean connecting and engaging, are you saying go to your followers' pages and make comments on their photos? I mean, what would be a best practice for that?
Right. Good question. So glad you asked that. So when I say engage, what I mean is, and here's a couple of really quick wins that you could have, a really quick tasks that you can go ahead and go do right off the bat. You can go to your followers list by going to the very top of your account and click your followers and go down that list and go to their accounts and like and comment on their photos. One thing you can also do is you can go to your own posts and find out who liked and who commented on your posts, go to their accounts and like and comment on their posts. Now, I know that sounds almost kind of meta or silly, and super simple, but it is. What it does is it lets them know, hey, I'm not just here to attract you to me and for you to give me a lot of attention. I'm going to give you attention too, right? Because it's a relationship. It's reciprocal. I want to be able to let you know that I'm here for you and that we care about you as much as you care about us and our animals and our brand.
Thank you so much. When you think about your own success stories, and I mean, you don't have to mention names if it's private, but are there any businesses that you really felt like, wow, I was able to help them improve their Instagram strategy and it resulted in, I don't know, XYZ?
Sure. So a lot of the accounts that I work with, they like to focus on follower growth, right? Because follower growth equals more eyeballs on your brand or business. It equals more sales. It equals more everything. It equals a better bottom line. So we like to focus on the follower growth. So I could spout off a bunch of, results that we've gotten as far as growing a following. But really, I think the biggest results that I've been able to get for some people is being able to connect with more people, creating that community, building that audience. And, I have a couple of examples where we've worked on their account and they didn't know what to do, or they wanted to just hand off this Instagram thing to me entirely. And we were able to, they have like programs where they have sponsorships or affiliates or influencers that sign up for them more often. They grow that program because we were able to grow their Instagram, which was really great because obviously that means they got more exposure for their business, having people sign up for that. I've had a couple of people that have been able to not only get more sales, but also be able to get more site traffic for themselves, which I'm sure is probably important. I'm sure a lot of rescue, your audience members, they might have a website, they might not, might be able to build that. Another example that I think really applies to your audience, someone that I've worked with, they really wanted to focus on their Facebook, which again, really relates to your audience. And what we were able to do is focus on pushing Instagram traffic to their Facebook. So they started from scratch, their Facebook's entirely from scratch. They did run a couple of ads, so that helped, but we were able to help them go from 0 to 1,000 likes on Facebook within, I think it was about a month and a half.
Wow.
So that was pretty insane. That was really, really great. And a lot of that traffic was from Instagram. So if you want to do that, because I know you've mentioned your audience is really based on Facebook. That's like their hub. That's where they like to go the most.
Right. For the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you can do is you can link up your Facebook on your Instagram account and then, share a lot of content, build your following on Instagram, but push them to Facebook. If you don't have a website, that would be really ideal because obviously if you're engaging more on Facebook, that would be a great way to go. And that way you can build up your audience on both platforms, but also be able to still have that forefront of Facebook and have it complement each other.
As we wrap up, really, anything else that we should take away when it comes to Instagram?
I would say, again, if other than the engaging with your followers and engaging with your current community, if you were to take one single thing away from this entire show, other than Harold is awesome and his show is freaking amazing and you need to keep listening to it week over week, I would say probably just to not be scared of Instagram. I know it's kind of intimidating. It is time consuming, or it seems like it could be time consuming. It can be intimidating because it feels like everyone else is getting results and maybe you've tried, maybe you've been posting, maybe you've been attempting to do it and it's just not working for you. I want to let you know that it's completely normal. It's something that you just got to keep testing and you just got to learn the different tactics and tools to be using for this platform. So I think my number one thing for you to take away is don't let that scare you and go ahead and use it because there's so much power in Instagram. though Facebook it's the big dog, right? It's the big win in the game. Instagram is different because the engagement is so much higher than Facebook, than Twitter, than Pinterest, than any other platform. The engagement on Instagram is not only a higher rate, but it allows you to connect in a very different and very amazing way with your community to build those relationships and to help them realize that, yeah, you're where you need to be. You're the brand. You're the rescue team. You're the animal rescue that they want to go to not only consume content, but to potentially add a family member to their home.
We want to say thank you to Allie McAdam for sharing some amazing advice on how to use Instagram for your animal rescue. We also want to say thank you to last week's guest, Nicole Holland, for connecting us with Allie. So thank you, Nicole. If you want to learn more about Allie McAdam or her podcast, Passion in Business, go to our show notes at thisispawprint.com/116. If you'd like to meet me or Nancy on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, we're almost at 1,000 followers on Instagram. Simply search for This Is Pawprint, all one word. If you want to listen to more episodes of Pawprint, you can find us on your favorite podcast app like Apple Podcasts, also known as iTunes, SoundCloud, or Overcast. Search for Pawprint Animal Rescue and hit the subscribe button to get the latest episodes immediately. Stay tuned next time for the first of several episodes with our favorite positive reinforcement dog trainer, Rhee Bloom. You're not going to want to miss a single one. We just want to say thank you for sharing Pawprint with your friends and family. You've helped us get to 116 episodes, and for that we are so grateful. And remember, you spread a positive message of love and peace by saving an animal. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next time on Pawprint.
Pawprint is a production of EVER Education.
You can't handle the truth.